probably like, I mean, I've been making like little joke tapes for as long as I can remember, but I first started trying to rap in like 1996, 97, I want to say. I could be wrong, but sometime around then. It was really horrible stuff. It was nothing that you want to hear. So I'm real glad that none of that exists anymore as far as I know. I got a little bit more serious as time went on. I started to accumulate different equipment, keyboard, drum machine, that sort of thing, and I got more serious. And then I would say I got really serious about it in like 2000, 2001. And I mean, at the time though, I still wasn't really politically conscious. I was to whatever extent, but not nearly to the point where I am now. I mean, I was always politically conscious to some extent, but I started to get really interested and started to study more and figure more things out about like around 03, 04, and from there. And that's when I got more serious. I did the Prisoners of War album, and yeah, that's when it really started to spread from there. I did the Global Warming first in 2003, and I got a little bit of radio attention from that actually in some shows, but it never really, it didn't really catch fire even in underground circles. But Prisoners of War was really the breakout. I was living in New York at that point, and I'd already recorded Prisoners of War, started distributing it at some shows and then online. And I was planning on doing one last album, and I really wasn't planning on getting any kind of money from that at all. I just wanted to do one last album to express my political views more than anything else. So I started reaching out to a few people. One of them was Paris, and he emailed me back pretty quickly and asked me about the Prisoners of War album and if I'd released it anywhere other than the website. So I explained the situation, that I had distributed it just locally and online and a few other places. He asked me to take it down and then asked me if I'd be interested in signing a record deal with Gorilla Funk, which of course I was. So he came to New York just a few weeks after that, and we met at Caroline Distribution in downtown New York, and he presented me with the contract, which I was supposed to get a $5,000 advance to that contract, hand over the masters for Prisoners of War, then he'd mix that down, and keeping in line with the vision of Gorilla Funk, I guess. I was supposed to maintain creative control over the whole thing. But what had happened was, I was so desperate at the time that I really needed the $5,000. I didn't want to take the contract home and then wait for him to go back to California and mail it out. So I just signed it at Caroline Distribution without asking for a copy or anything, and I handed that over. The problem was I never got the $5,000 advance. I got a lot of emails and things saying that there needed more work to be done and there was more mixing involved than he expected, but it never really explained why I didn't get my advance. So things kept dragging out, and then after a few years of this, eventually I just completely gave up on it, and I ended up getting my master's back, and I got out of that deal. And then I kind of was burnt out on hip-hop for a while after that. It was really a disheartening thing. But I got the song with Dead President T-Cash out of that, and a little bit more exposure. And after a while, people kept, emailing me, contacting me, and then telling me they wanted to hear Prisoners of War again from the few bits that they heard that came out earlier. So I re-released that, and that's where I was. Did I ever make any money from music? Well, I mean, there's been some income, but the question is, has it balanced with the money that I put out? It costs a lot of money for like recording time, studio time, equipment, beats. Then pressing the CD is always the most expensive thing, although that price is starting to come down a little bit now. So yeah, I mean, I've had some limited income, but it's never come anywhere near the amount of money that I've put into it. And then if you consider the time that I've put into it, definitely, absolutely not. But that's not why I do it anyways. But the one time that I did make money was when I was like starting to get really serious, and this was back in Pennsylvania, probably like around 2002, 2003. I did a few shows there, and what I did was, at that time it was hard for especially like small and underground acts to get any kind of shows, hip-hop, as far as hip-hop. So what I did was I got in contact with the owner of or the manager of this little chain club that was there, that they had never had any kind of concerts, let alone hip-hop, but I ended up convincing her to let us have a hip-hop show, and I invited a lot of local groups, so everybody brought their own local followers, so it ended up being good for all of us, because we all got to be exposed to the other people's fans, and I made a little bit of money off those shows. It was like 2 or 3 shows there where I made a couple thousand off of each, so that's the most that I ever made, and actually the money that I made from those shows is what I used to come to New York to record Global Warning in 2003 with 7 Wounds. The last time I went to a doctor, well, I went to a dentist last year thanks to some friends of mine, but an actual doctor I'd say it's probably been at least a decade. I haven't had any insurance, never really kept a job long enough to get any kind of health care that way, and of course this music is not giving me nearly enough money to pay for anything like that, so I have a lot of things I'd like to get checked out. I know I need to get to a doctor. I think I have some health problems that could be pretty serious, but I don't know when I'll be able to do that. Oh man, there's a flood coming. There were so many years where I didn't have any recording equipment, or the recording equipment was such bad quality I couldn't produce anything decent. And it's getting harder and harder to find a recording studio, especially if you want to just block it out for a few hours instead of like reserving it for days, which I could never afford to do. But I finally got a decent setup this year, and that's how you got every day I wake up on the wrong side of capitalism. So just this year alone, I've recorded a lot of music, a lot of projects that were put on hold, like the Arrow EP that was supposed to come out 2008, I think, maybe 2009. But that's all coming now, so with your help, that's all gonna come.
Drop your guns. All drop your guns. Or I'll blast.